Well, except that's entirely untrue. The border was not and is not secure. And not just that, but it clearly never will be under this so-called leadership. The American people are looking to hold these people accountable. And this evening, with this vote, they found no accountability. And that is of utmost unfortunate. But I know one member of Congress who will continue to try to make that happen. Let's bring in Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz to talk about this impeachment vote. Congressman, you lost. I'm blown away. Boom. I mean, the border's secure. He lied. Dereliction of duty. Who are these four? Gallagher, Ken Buck, McClintock, Blake Moore, who switched his vote. We'll get to all that. But Mike Gallagher, I thought he was America First kind of guy. Am I wrong?
This morning, Mike Gallagher stood before the House conference and said that he didn't believe that there would be any limiting principle on impeachment if Mayorkas was impeached. I strongly disagree with that. The limiting principle is a purposeful violation of the law. Mayorkas is not an incompetent person. He's not the Mr. Magoo of the border. It's more like he's the evil genius who's facilitated a system with a requisite amount of pull factors in the United States with housing, transportation, cell phone, childcare for all of these illegals, and they've come by the millions. I think what really swayed me was that of the 8 million people we've encountered and released into the country, the Department of Homeland Security's own Inspector General fessed up that we don't know who and where 6 million of them are. So that middle finger that America remembers getting from that criminal illegal alien, it's sort of like the House of Representatives gave that middle finger to the American people tonight. And so while Blake Moore did not intentionally, vote, he would have voted to impeach Mayorkas. He voted no at the end as a procedural matter so that we have the ability to consider this later in the week. My other 3 colleagues took a very unfortunate position.
We'll talk about that a little bit. Blake Moore was a yay, and then he switched to a nay. He switched to a nay when it was 215. So it's kind of deadlocked. For layman, you would think that would be the impetus to take another vote and maybe get it past the finish line. Why did he switch?
Well, because you're only able to reconsider a matter if you are on the prevailing side of the vote. So we didn't have any of our people that were part of the 215 that had voted no. So trust me, Blake Moore wants Mayorkas impeached. But I got to tell you, Bowling, as I'm watching that board and it's 215 to 215, I have never missed George Santos more. And what irony that the New York Republicans who drove Santos out of Congress, who are watching the children in their state being driven out of schools so that those schools can become migrant housing centers, that now we don't get to execute on an impeachment trial of Mayorkas because they threw George Santos out. I also wondered, wouldn't it have been nice to still have Kevin McCarthy in the House of Representatives? Never thought you'd hear me say that, but Kevin McCarthy, after being dislodged as Speaker, took his marbles and went home. He would have been a reliable vote for impeachment, but if he wasn't Speaker, he wasn't willing to stick around. And I think that the errant expulsion of Santos and the abject selfishness of Kevin McCarthy contributed to this result as much as the 3 Republican members who voted no sincerely.
You're touching on something. You're touching on something here that Kevin McCarthy left you guys high and dry. He said, I'm taking my marbles, as you point out, and I'm going home, which left you one seat shy. But he also was under, I believe, I'm right in saying that it was under McCarthy that the process to impeach or to remove George Santos happened under McCarthy's speakership, right?
Well, I think that there was starts and stops in all of those processes. I can say that it was at the very beginning of this Congress that we were talking a lot about impeachment, but I think we lost momentum we should have impeached this guy in the first several weeks. We should have had that type of intense focus on it, and maybe we never would have gotten the votes. But I will credit Mike Johnson to this. We had the vote, because the old way of doing things is if you don't have the votes, you just cancel it, you wring your hands, you avoid the embarrassment. But look, the American people need to see who is voting to keep this guy in his job and who would like to remove him. And then in our republic, the voters ultimately get to determine whether or not to keep those representatives as their leaders. And right now, I think that Mayorkas owns this failure. Biden owns this failure. They could secure the border at any time, but we demoralize our own voters when we gaslight this prospect of accountability, and then we fail to deliver on it because of poor choices that are self-inflicted. Again,